Govinda, Shri Advaita Radha, Shri Visati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesh Srinivadi Paschati Deshatarine. So we are reading the chapter 14, Three Modes of Material Nature. Let's pay our obeisances to Shri Radha Govinda before we start. Have you all gone to Mangalore? You all been to Mangalore? No? Are you planning to?
Mataji. Yes, very much.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Anya Mataji. So we read we read the first 4 sections in which Krishna talks about this knowledge of the 3 modes of material nature being the supreme most than what he has spoken so far, and how by getting this knowledge, even the great sages have attained liberation. And then he explains about the 3 modes, and I gave the document to Kirti Mataji, whoever wants it can get from her, as to the description, the symptoms, the characteristics, action, death. Yeah. Krishna, sorry, the 3 modes, and how the 3 modes act on a living entity, and how there's always a competition as to which mode will be active at what time. Now, the last section which we're going to do today is Krishna talks about how do we transcend these modes. That's what we are going to study. So, transcending the modes. So, in this particular section, so far Krishna has explained how the conditioned soul becomes conditioned by the modes, and what happens when the conditioned soul becomes conditioned by the mode. But now Krishna is going to give the knowledge that having attained that, because we are not supposed to be conditioned, how we can get out of it. We cannot fight it. Okay, it says transcend. The word uses transcending the mode, not fighting the modes. So Krishna says, when you see that there is nothing beyond these modes of nature in all activities, and that the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all these modes, oh Krishna, I'm sorry, then you can see my spiritual nature. So this goes in, who can explain this verse? You're like on, who can explain this verse? What is the key point? So in all activities in the material mode, wherever in the place where we are, he's saying there's nothing beyond these modes of nature in all activities. Okay, so all our domains, or whatever we are doing at the subtle level or gross level, is completely infused with the nature of these modes of completely infused by the influence of the modes of nature. But to see Krishna, we have to approach authority who is not under the influence of the modes of nature. I think we have discussed this in the past, that Krishna is in the 4th dimension, right? This Chaitanya Chaitamrita explains Turiya, word is Turiya, right? That is a 4th dimension, and the examples given are that Krishna is beyond the 3 dimensions of goodness, passion, ignorance. He's beyond the 3 domains of the time, past, present, future. He's beyond the 3 maintenance, creation, maintenance, and devastation, the 3 forms in the material nature, which like Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. Like he's beyond that. Like that, he's beyond beyond all the upper planet. He's not in the upper planets, middle planets, and lower planets. So he's in the 4th dimension. So what Prabhupada explains is, what is the platform of real knowledge? That the 3 modes perform all material activities. And the Supreme Lord is transcendental to these modes and controls all these modes. Because he is not in these modes, that is why he can control them. How can one transcend the modes? One can transcend the modes by understanding this science properly, by learning it from a proper source. And who is a real spiritual master? Real spiritual master is Krishna. Whoever actually is following Krishna can actually be authentic. For example, who is a real professor? The real professor is the one who is not manufacturing its own course, right? Or following a curriculum affiliated with a university. How do you know that they are real professor? Because they were affiliated by their real professors. Like that, it goes on. I cannot be a self-claimed genius, right? It has to be acclaimed by an authority. Like that, if we have to really transcend the three modes, we have to approach an authority. I think we have read all this. Is like revision of everything that we have said. But where will you apply this? Hmm? Where will you apply this? He's starting to describe the methodology of transcending the modes by clearing his position. The first thing, right? What is this? Tell me. In our own lives, it is very easy. Tell me. My question is that in our day-to-day life, how does this verse apply? When you see that there is nothing beyond these modes of nature in all activities, and that the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all these modes, then you can see my spiritual nature. Where will you? How does it affect our day-to-day life? Am I audible?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Day to day life, we are in the modes.
Okay.
So we come to the realization that I'm doing this because I'm controlled by this mode. You know.
Okay. Okay. Very nice. So you have to remember it again and again.
Yes, but sometimes also you get the other realization. For example, you're very tired and you have to complete your rounds, and that time you're chanting. First round, you feel little, sleepy, or, you feel that you may not be able to complete whatever the remaining rounds are, but the second round is much better than the first, and the third is much better, and the fourth is much better. So by you realize that these modes are no longer acting on you. It's time, it's past 11:30, close to midnight, but still you can do it. So this is my personal realization that the mind that time is not in the tamoguna, which it actually otherwise is, but sometimes you do get this.
Okay, very nice. Very nice. Thank you. What else? Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Sometimes, we take pride that we have done it. Ahankara vimudatma karta hai miti mannate. But then we realize actually it's Krishna who is doing this. We are just mere instruments.
Nice.
We're trying to build a temple. We are trying to do some service. We take a lot of pride. Oh, I have done it. No, actually it's a divine plan. You are just a mere instrument in that part.
Very nice. Very nice. And it also helps to direct the movement of the mind, right? Because by having this knowledge, we can recognize that I'm there and the mind is there. So if the mind is going somewhere, you can say, okay, now the modes of material nature are dragging again. So to bring it back. This is what Krishna says, right? Wherever the mind goes by the virtue of its unsteady and uncontrolled nature, bring it back. Says, right? Bring it back. And the other example given in second chapter Bhagavad Gita for such a transcendentalist is, what is it compared to? And who brings it back? Krishna, Arjuna asks Krishna the questions, no? How does he talk? How does he walk? How does he sit?
Sthita prajna, Mataji.
Yeah, what is it compared to? The analogy given was?
The tortoise, which
Tortoise. Yep, the tortoise. Well, So when the embodied being is able to transcend these modes, these three modes, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and distress, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Prabhupada gives a very nice purport to this, that it's not that we have to, the Krishna consciousness is transcendental, right? It's not, it doesn't depend on external factors. Because Krishna is ahetuki apratihata, right? Ahetuki apratihata word is used, and it's not, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not dependent on anything and is not affected by anything. So if we try to, if we are able to transcend these modes, then these things, it's not that the body is not going to grow old. It's not that the body is not going to get disease or die. But we don't recognize ourselves with the body. The problem is with the recognition. Okay, the problem is not in the impact of the modes on the material aspect of our existence. Problem happens when we recognize with it. Now, Manish Prabhu gives a very nice example of it. He says, let's say that somebody sends a very nasty email to someone. The person is reading it. The one who is, it's full of fault finding for the person who's reading it. And then the person is reading this email, and then what happens to that person? He gets very angry, feels very distressed and sad, right? But then he says that actually, what is the fact? What is really the fact? That this is a combination of black and white words. It is a combination of words. But we are really, really associating ourselves with that. So we get all these, we get impacted. But if a person is able to see that, okay, these are words and I'm reading it, but actually there is no relationship. Actually, I am not supposed to be affected by it because there's words. Then we are able to transcend. You see, this is not like a transcendental example, but this is one example that I can see myself different from the situation. So I can say that the body is Prabhupada. When you see Prabhupada, have you seen Prabhupada's recordings when he's in November 1977 when he's dictating Krishna book, and he's just surviving on Charnamrit every day? Have you seen those recordings? So you can really feel, right? Prabhupada's voice is like so powerful at that time. He's not, and if you actually have seen somebody who is very sick, very old, very emaciated in the body, they can hardly speak. They can hardly speak. They can hardly do anything. And here we have Prabhupada fully alert and talking about Krishna's pastimes in very deep core. Like he's in the middle of the Krishna book, right? He's like explaining. And he's actually explaining the three modes of material nature and how it affects the conditioned soul, and then how the conditioned soul becomes bound, and then it gets influenced by the birth, death, old age, and disease. The problem is that we become influenced. Okay, we don't have to become influenced. Why? Because you have to recognize who I am actually. And I'm just experiencing it. I'm not impacted by it. There's a difference between experience and impact. So can I enjoy nectar even in this life? So at this point, Arjun asked Krishna 3 questions. What are the 3 questions he asked? You read it, right? Krishna has made such a big statement that if one is able to transcend these modes, can become free from birth, death, old age, disease, in distress in this, and enjoy nectar even in this life. What are the 3 questions he asked? One is the symptoms of such a transcendentalist who has transcended the 3 modes, behavior, and how does he do that? So what are the symptoms of one who has transcended the modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes? So Krishna answers. In verse 22 to 25, what questions are answered? Out of the 3 questions he asks, what are the symptoms of one who has transcended the modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes? In this verse, what questions are answered?
First two, symptoms and the
Very, very nice.
behavior.
Very nice. Yeah. So Krishna explains, blessed Lord said, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, nor longs for them when they disappear, who is seated like one unconcerned, being situated beyond these material reactions of the modes of nature, who remains firm, knowing that the modes alone are active, who regards alike pleasure and pain, looks on a clod, a stone, a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is wise and holds praise and blame to be the same, who is unchanged in honor and dishonor, who treats friend and foe alike, who has abandoned all fruitive undertakings, such a man is said to have transcended the modes of nature. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, hai na? Is it? To develop all these qualities, how do we know I'm transcending? I am not envious, I am not attached. Oh my God, oh my God, the whole, if you read at the news, that's why Prabhupada said, don't get so absorbed in the news of this world. So if you read the news, it is filled with, delusion, filled with envy, filled with pain, and filled with pleasure, filled with how many people died, where was the bomb blast, where is the war, which school shooting was going on, especially in America, who insulted who. Oh my God. So that basically we are putting ourselves in trouble by getting absorbed in all this. Imagine a journalist being transcendental to a modes of material nature. How hard it will be. It's so hard, है ना? So we have to choose our job so properly. So basically, is that the Prabhupada writes in the purport that envy and attachment, does he say that the two things, envy and attachment, please double check that those are the things. So envy means what? I've said that. We've defined it. What does envy mean?
I like what you have, but I don't like the fact that you have it.
Yeah, it's my spiritual master's definition. Yes, I like what you have, but I don't like the fact that you have it. I should have it. That's why I know one country is trying to conquer the other country. Why? Because they like what they have, but they don't like the fact they have. We should have it. That's envy. The whole platform is envy. We are envious of Krishna, and then we become envious. We carry that everywhere else. We carry it in our own self. And who gets impacted by that? Who gets impacted? The person that we're envious to, or we? Who gets?
The person who is envious.
Yeah, the one who has that nature, right? Not the person. So we actually become more and more covered by the influence of the modes of nature, by passion, by ignorance. What was I reading? Was in the mode of passion with money, greed, and Nalakwe. Yeah, I was reading that Sri Damodar Janani, in which Money, Greed, and Nalakwe, Nardmun is feeling sorry for those two boys. Why? Because he's saying that actually you were given a privilege of being a demigod after being blessed by Lord Shiva and being born to a very high grade father like Kuber. You're supposed to do austerities and elevate yourself in the mode of goodness. But what you have done is you have associated with the mode of passion, where this is desire, hankering, right? And then from the mode of passion, you have degraded yourself to the mode of ignorance. It's a very sorry position. So now you have to take birth in mode of ignorance, which is to become the tree. Stand there naked for thousands of years. So, of course, there is a background story, and of course, this is not a curse, this is a blessing in disguise. And it was written that Nardmun is thinking that he's thinking that I should not be cursing the demigods, because demigods are of a higher position. But what to do? I have to take part in Krishna's pastime like this. So he's thinking one way is I just curse them, and then they stand as trees, and then they remain in ignorance. And the other way is I'll curse them, but I will speak something before I do that. so that when they're standing for thousands of years, they can introspect as to what I spoke. Right? And then so Narad Muni actually speaks before he grants them this blessing in disguise or curse. You know what he speaks about? What does he speak about? What are the topics he touches? I think we're going tangential, but I think it is important. He speaks about how they degraded, what I just said, that from they were supposed to be in mode of goodness, but they associated with mode of passion and degraded to ignorance. And then he talks about how did you do that? Because of the pride. He talks about pride, and then he talks about the activities in that pride of intoxication, wine, woman, and gambling. And he talks about the body. Says person who is covered by that pride thinks, who does this body, thinks that they'll never die, even though they're seeing everyone dying, but they think they'll never die. So then he analyzes that who does this body really belong to? Does it belong to the father? Does it belong to the mother? Does it belong to the employer? Does it belong to the person who purchases the body as a slave? Does it belong to the mother's father? Does it belong to the son who gives this body to the fire at the end? Does it belong to the dog who eats the body? Or does it belong to the earth? Who does this body belong to? And then he talks about the privilege of poverty over having so much of wealth. So he talks about these topics, and then he curses them. And then so the question is, why I brought this up, that the modes of ignorance, the mode of goodness is better than passion and ignorance, but Krishna is asking to transcend all of them. And how do we know that we have transcended all of them? Even mode of goodness is when it does not hate illumination. First thing. Which mode gives illumination? Where all the 9 gates are illuminated with knowledge. Which mode?
Mode of
knowledge.
goodness.
Which mode is there is intense attachment, hankering, longing?
Passion.
Passion,
Which mode puts us in delusion?
ignorance,
Ignorance.
When they are present, nor longs for them when they disappear. So he is actually telling in the first sentence itself, don't be in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. See, it's saying it in that way. Got it? And who is seated like unconcerned, being situated beyond these material reactions of the modes of nature. Right? For example, we have I'll not. But anyway, I'll give you food for thought and you think about it. If we think about a great personality, let's say think about Narad Muni. When he explains how he became Narad Muni in 5th chapter, 1st canto, he says that when my mother was, by the virtue of time factor, when she was struck by the snake and she died, I took it as Krishna's arrangement. So he's not like he's in knowledge, but he's not attached to the knowledge. He's not attached to his attachment with his mother, and he's not like, now I have delusion is, now I have nothing, I have nobody, now I'm going to be like, my life is going to be like difficult ahead. He does not get impacted. Does not. And we look at Prabhupada's life. How do you say Prabhupada is beyond that? Hate, illumination, attachment, and delusion?
he started business which did not work. He left his family because of the tea and the paper thing. So God was preparing him to be away from all the attachments.
Right. So you can say that Prabhupada, you see, it's not that he was transcendental from the beginning. It's not that only after starting ISKCON he became an acharya. So the knowledge was there, but then the vision was, how do I serve Krishna with that knowledge? It's not that, okay, I'm so knowledgeable, give me some this honor, that honor. which he should have gotten anyway. Generally, a person who is in illumination has a desire of recognition somewhere. They want to be happy, and they want to be known as that. Oh, they are so peaceful. People should say when they move around that this person is so peaceful, this person is so calm, this person is so simple. There is a little bit of a subtle desire. Okay, it's very difficult. Attachment, like Nikhil Prabhu gave the example that the attachment was not towards the family. If the family condition were cordial to execute the principles of Krishna consciousness, fine. If they're not, then we leave it. So that's like detachment. Delusion, so when his factory burned down, it's not that, okay, now ab kya hoga? No, everything is destroyed. No, it's Krishna's arrangement. This is the last leg. I have to get up and go. So, like that, we can actually think of the acharyas or think of the devotees and see that how actually they are beyond the three modes of material nature. And then everything else follows. First is this, everything else follows. So, but Krishna says, how does he do that? So, what are the symptoms? What are the three questions? Symptoms, behavior, and how does he do that?
What are the
So,
transcends?
how does he transcend the modes of material nature? So, this is how he transcends the modes of material nature. Mam chayo avya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to a level of Brahman. So, full devotional service means with body, words, and mind, full. Okay, does not fall in any circumstance. And the thing is, at once transcends. It's not that we have to wait for a right time. That is why even at the time of death, if I can bring myself to the center and think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at that moment and serve Him, we can transcend. But that origin disease, of course, we should not wait for do that. To do that, the preparation has to be done properly. Then the chances are high, but it can happen at once. Like Prabhupada was asked this question that this is a recording I've seen that Prabhupada, we have spent lifetimes after lifetimes of doing sinful activities. Does that mean that I now have to spend lifetimes after lifetimes rectifying those sinful activities or suffering the reaction? Does that mean that? So what does Prabhupada answer? What does he say?
Says so it takes just 1 second to surrender to Krishna.
Yeah, he said, you're not reading Bhagavad Gita. He scolds you, you're not reading Bhagavad Gita. You're not reading. What does Krishna say? What is that famous verse in 18th chapter? What does Krishna say? Sarvadharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam raja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshashami ma shucha. Says, I will take care of your sinful reactions. Do not fear. You're not reading Bhagavad Gita? It takes 1 second. It takes 1 second to surrender to Krishna. Krishna can do it. So Krishna answers the third question, method of transcending, how to transcend, engage in full devotional service and unfailing in all circumstances. Is it easy? Very easy? Yeah. You see, it's not that a devotee does not face the verses, does not feel the things in the more of ignorance, like the more of ignorance. I shouldn't say that because does not feel grief. Arjun is feeling all that now in Bhagavad Gita, does not feel separation, does not feel anxiety, okay, does not have questions. It's not like that. But it's not, these things are not failing, is not an impediment in progressing in Krishna consciousness. Okay, acknowledge, yes, these are there. Yes, it is going to be there. If you read Prabhupada says, as long as conditioned soul has a material body, the three modes are going to be there, period. They're going to be there. But if we engage in full devotional service, then they don't act on us. They're going to be there, but they don't act on us at the spiritual level. They don't act. They don't become a block. For example, if somebody is sitting in a car and it's raining outside, thundering, raining, will that person get wet? Why not? Why not?
Because inside the car.
Yeah, the shield is there, right? It's not impacted. Even the rain is still going on, the storm is still going on, but I am not getting impacted by it. Okay, like that. So person, because the person is aware that I have this covering, like that, a person in Krishna consciousness, by virtue of its full devotional service, unfailing in any circumstances, is not going to be impacted. But the activities of modes of nature are going to be there. We cannot change that. We are not that powerful. What we can do is we can have this shield or coverage of the devotional service. And then we can transcend. Okay? Only Krishna can change it. We don't have an ability to change the external factors at all. What we have an ability to do is to change our internal existence under any circumstance. And people have done that. Okay, they may not have achieved the pure devotional service, but somehow or other, even in the to survive in the material world, people have done that. What is that? Nelson Mandela, when he came out of the jail, he was asked, right, because he was kept in the jail for on false accusations, and he spent most of his life in the jail. Right when he came out, he was asked that, what is the learning that you did? Like, what are you going to do now? Because a normal person will like, now I'm going to press charges against these people. I'm going to sue them. I'm going to do this, right? What did he say? He said that, okay, you tell me, what did he say? Yeah, and
Mataji, so actually, while he was in the prison, he had got a lot of envy. No, not envy, sorry, hatred and anger against those who put him behind the bars. For a simple statement, he wanted the representation of the blacks also, in the government. So when he walked out of his prison, he thought that, okay, the first prison was a physical prison, where I was put behind the bars. And now I'm walking from a physical prison to a mental prison, because all of these emotions which I have against the people, hatred and, anger. So it's that prison, which is a self-made prison. It is a prison of my choice. So this is what I read, Mataji. Like, these were his thoughts. And then, like, we also, when we have all these negative emotions in us, we are also like kind of a prisoner. So this is
what did he
what
say? Is the question. Yeah.
he I don't remember.
Okay. So, thank you. You're right. I'm not saying that you're not wrong, but I just don't want to go tangential. So he said, you see, uh, I realized when I was in the prison, I'm paraphrasing. Okay, I'm paraphrasing. This is not the real sentence, but the gist was that I realized that actually they were in the prison. So I don't want to be going back to the prison um, by doing the activities that they did, because I realized that actually I was behind the prison physically, but they were in the prison of their own thoughts and desires. So I would like to be completely out of the prison. So it was a very impactful statement in that manner. So Krishna is saying at once transcends the modes of natural nature and comes to a level of Brahman. And Prabhupada is explaining in great detail what is the level of Brahman, how it is a beginning of the basis of transcendental happiness and Paramatma, then Bhagavan, and then a conditioned soul can remain at the level of Brahman or actually can transcend to the level of realization of Bhagavan. But the risk of remaining on the level of Brahman is that because there is lack of activity, that the conditioned soul on virtue of its desire to enjoy, can actually fall down again in the material world. So, but Brahmano hi pratishta aham. Amritas vyavasasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhai ekantasya cha. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness and which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal. This is an answer to the Mayavad philosophy. Because they say that Brahman is Aham Brahmasmi, like Brahma, I am the Brahman, or Brahman is the most superior, right? That's what they say. Sri Prabhupada explains that this verse is an answer to the Mayavad philosophy, because he's saying that Brahmano hi pratishta aham. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. Yesterday we read, for India, it was this morning, this 5th canto, 18th chapter, verse 31, right? Where Prabhupada is explaining the residents of what Varsha? I forgot. They're praying to,
Jambudvip.
yeah, but what Varsha? They're praying to Hiranyamaya
Yeah,
Varsha.
that Aryama and the
Varsha is
daughter.
Hiranyamaya Varsha, yeah, Aryama and other. They're praying to Matsya Avatar. And what are they?
They're
What are they
praying to Kurma Avatar,
Kurma
Mataji.
Avatar. Thank you, Kurma Avatar. And what are they saying that actually you are behind the cosmic manifestation, right? This is the prayer. So like that, Prabhupada gives example in the purport of fire. He says there are three things: fire in itself, and then there's heat, and then there's energy. So heat and energy are formless. Fire has a form. So we can understand that heat and energy are only present if the fire is present, which has a form. But if somebody says that heat and energy is a reality and fire is not the reality, it doesn't make sense. Like that, Brahman is only present because Krishna is there. Brahman itself has no existence if Krishna as a person, as a supreme person, is not there. That's the first thing. Okay, there are two things happening here. First thing is that what is what? So Brahman, Krishna is the basis of impersonal Brahman. Now, what is that impersonal Brahman? What is happening there is a constitutional position of ultimate happiness. It's not the ultimate happiness, it's a constitutional position on which the ultimate happiness is based on. Why? Because there is transcendental knowledge there. Transcendental knowledge itself is not going to bring us to the level of ultimate happiness. Transcendental, otherwise Gyan Yoga could have been the best, right? If the transcendental knowledge was going to bring us to the Anandamaya Kosha, right? Then he would have said that. But he's saying it's the basis of the constitutional happiness, a constitutional position of ultimate happiness. It's not ultimate happiness in itself. Why? Because bhakti is the ultimate happiness. But what does Brahman puts us in? It makes us realize we are immortal, imperishable, and eternal. A very important verse, and you have a lot of questions in question bank about this too. The devotional service is the safest position because it includes the characteristics of Brahman realization. So it mentions Supreme Personality of God is the reservoir of all pleasure. And when one understands that then he actually becomes transcendently blissful. So Brahman is a basis. Like for example, all the education is based on the alphabets, right? A, B, C. If we know that, then we can learn how to combine those alphabets. But if we don't know that, then we cannot do anything. Can you read Kannada? Anybody? Maybe you can. But can you read Chinese? Okay, nobody can read Chinese. I know that. So can you read Chinese? Why can't you read Chinese? What is the problem? Why can't we read Chinese language? Huh?
No one taught us.
We're not trained to read Mataji.
Huh?
We're not trained to read it.
Yeah. So because we don't know the basics, we cannot combine those words. We cannot know what the grammar is. So like that, Brahman is compared to that, like alphabets. Okay, I am immortal, I'm imperishable, I'm eternal. So, but that's not all in all. But Mayavadis, they think this is all in all. They miss the chance, the fun is missed. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full of 6 opulences. When a devotee approaches the Lord, there is exchange of the 6 opulences. The conditioned soul is looking for the 6 opulences. Prabhu was saying the other day, I was hearing his class, he said, we are only looking for the 6 opulences. Actually, we can see, looking for Krishna's 6 opulences in our life. The whole search is based on that in our life. So realization of Brahman, like eternity, imperishability, and ultimate happiness are included in bhakti. So what is the summary? Living entity, although Brahman in nature has been impacted, has been somehow or other impacted by the 3 modes of material nature because of the desire to lord it over the material nature, because of on account of its envy to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So desire makes him fall down. Association with modes makes him desire to dominate the material world in different bodies. Devotional service helps us to acquire transcendental position, rectify our unlawful desire to control the material nature. And if we practice the 9 process of devotional service, like Krishna, then one gets situated in Brahman conception and then becomes equal in quality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And slowly, what happens is that we come to the final realization of our relation of self-realization, which Krishna Prabhupada explains earlier in the chapter, which is to know that I am the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I don't have to serve my desires. This is so simple, but it is so impactful, and it actually applies in our every mode of our existence in this world, every nook and corner. It's very simple. So next time you go to market to buy something, so we can check out which is an unlawful desire and which is actually based on what is need. So we actually control our senses in all domains just by this particular nature. Next time we sit in front of a TV, I hope not, but if we do, then we're able to control. Next time we go to online or social media or something, we're able to control that. What am I doing here? What was the intention? There is intention behind activity. Person controlled by the modes of material nature loses it, you lose it. Okay, this is the end of the chapter where Krishna again talks about the importance of this knowledge of the modes of material nature and how it conditions a living entity, describes the binding of pure soul by the 3 modes, and recognizes the supreme, and then characteristics, symptoms, actions, death, and how one mode is acting over the other all the time. The struggle is there all the time. And then how do we transcend the modes? We can go offline. I want to get that verse because you can use that verse in your answers to the questions. Am I the host or you're the host?
You're the host, Mataji.
Okay, is it T2622? How do I go offline?
On the more, Mataji, you click on more and you can stop the live.